Radhe Radhe,
Radhe Radhe,
Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.
Welcome to the exceedingly beautiful and newly dressed Shri Radha Vinu Bihari Mandir, Shri Vrindavan Dham. Shri Gurudeva ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai, Pati Pavana Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Prem Purushottam Sachinandana Gaura Hari ki jai, Radha Vinu Bihari Ju ki jai, Radha Ramana Ju ki jai, Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Harinam Sankirtana ki jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Dandavat Pranam Jai Vaisnavas. Welcome, Swagatam.
So we'll begin with Mangalacarana. Mangalacarana is the auspicious invocation calling on the grace, the presence, the mercy, the sidelong glances of our beloved Srila Gurudeva, of our beloved Srila Prabhupada, of our Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga, Pati Pavan Shri Nityananda Prabhu, Prem Purushottam Sachinandan Gaura Hari, going all the way back to the original Guru who is Krishna himself, and his Guru of Prem, Vrishabhavanandini Srimati Radha Thakurani. As Krishna states, Radhikar Prema Guru Ami Shishya Nata. Radhika is my Guru of Prem, and I'm simply her dancing pupil. She makes me dance various novel dances according to her tune. So we can find Mangalacharan on page 1 of this very beautiful bhajan treasure trove, Sri Gaudiya Giti Gucha, starting with Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam. If you do not have this, Jiva Pavana Prabhu kindly posts the bhajans along with their translations and commentaries from our acharyas in the comment section of the thread. And Anjali posts the page number today with avocados, and she also posts the PDF version of Sri Gaudiya Giti Gucha for your downloadability, so that you can have it with you wherever you go, whenever you need, for your bhajan. And Sudevi is currently still on the downhill slope. Starts here, goes into here, crawls down into here, takes a few days, and kind of knocks you down, and then you come out the other side. So hopefully she'll be okay. Just on the up and up. After that, a lot of people in Vrindavan are coming down with this viral flu thing. It's a change of seasons, and I believe that in this case, because it's not like what we experienced when we had the coronavirus. So she'll be, that's a real word. She'll be okay soon. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitantam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parjana Sahitam Krishna Caitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangscha Om Ajnanatirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Shrimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayanitti Namine Shri Krishna Leela Katane Sudaksham Audarya Madhurya Gunaischa Yuktam Varam Varinyam Purusham Mahantam Narayanam Pangshirashan Namami Tridandinam Bhakta Shiromanincha Shri Krishna Padabjudataika Hriddi Caitanya Leela Amrita Sarasaram Narayanam Pang Satatam Prapadye Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Gaura Presthaya Bhutale Shri Shri Mar Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Yitti Namine Ati Martya Charitraya Svashritanam Chapaline Jiva Dukhe Sadarthaya Shri Nama Prema Dayine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabhaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhave Namaha Madhuryo Jvala Premadhya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudhapa Siddhanta Dhvantaharine Namo Gaur Kishoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambhara Sambodhe Padambu Jayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanugabbarayate Gaura Virbhava Bhumestvam Nirdeshtasya Janapriya Vaisnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jaganathayate Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Caitanya Namne Gauratvise Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanto Radha Kantan Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhan Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jayatang Surato Pangur Mama Mandam Matergati Matsarvasvapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyat Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadam Shrimad Ratnagara Sinhasanastho Shri Shri Radha Shri Lagovinda Devo Preshthalibhi Sevyamano Smarami Shri Mandra Sarasarambhi Vangshi Vatatatastitaha Karshan Menu Swanar Gopir Gopinatha Shriyestu Naha Vrindaye Tulasi Devyai Priyaye Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavatyai Namo Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupaswarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Jaya Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Cheto Darpanamarjanam Hava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamritashvadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Harer Nama Harer Nama Harer Nameva Kevalam Kalo Nastyeva 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 Gatiranyatha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Dandava Pranam, all Vaishnavas. Wow. Okay. So Shyam and Gopali just shifted to Vrindavan from the US with their twins, Rupa and Braja. And Braja's blood test just came back positive for dengue. So dengue is a pretty intense kind of fever. So please pray for him that he will become stronger and stronger. Dengue can be a pretty heavy disease. And now we're going to call for the mercy of Sri Gurudeva. Gurudev Kirpa Bindu Diya Koro Edase by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, page 32. Gurudev Kirpa Bindu Diya Koro Edase Trinapekshayoti Kripa Bindu Diya Koro Edase Trinapekshayoti Sakala Sahane Baladiya Sakala Sahane Baladiya Koro Nijamane Sprihahi Nijamane sprihahino le Kripa bindu diya Gurudeva dase Trinapekshayati Kripa bindu diya Gurudeva dase Trinapekshayati Sakale sauman korite shakati Dehonatho jatha jatho Sakale sauman korite shakati Dehonatho jatha jatho Tabe to gahibo Hari Naam sukhe Tabe to gahibo Hari Naam sukhe Aparadho habe hato Aparadho habe hato Gurudev Kripa bindu diya Gurudeva dase Trinapekshayati Kripa bindu diya Gurudeva dase Trinapekshayati Abe heo kripa lobhiyaye jano kritartho hoive natho Abe heo kripa lobhiyaye jano kritartho hoive natho Shakti buddhi abhiyati din Shakti buddhi abhiyati din Koro more atmasato Koro more atmasato Kripa bindu diya Gurudeva dase Trinapekshayati Kripa bindu diya Gurudeva dase Trinapekshayati Yogyata vichare kichu nahi paai Tomara karuna saro Yogyata vichare kichu nahi paai Tomara karuna saro Karuna na hoile kadiya kadiya Karuna na hoile kadiya kadiya Prano na rakhibo aro Prano na rakhibo aro Kripa bindu diya Gurudeva dase Trinapekshayati Kripa bindu diya Gurudeva dase Dandavat Pranam, all Vaishnavas. As we were calling out this Gurudeva Kirpa Binu Diya, first he's saying, give me a drop of mercy, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And then he's saying, what kind of drop of mercy? Trinapeksha atihina, Sakala sahane baladiyakaro nijamane sprihahino. Make this servant more humble than a blade of grass. Give me the strength to tolerate everything and make me free from my vanity. So this in essence is a calling to completely reverse my current nature. Our current material nature is the opposite of what it should be. The current material nature is exactly what it should be, but it's opposite of what our Atma's nature should be, which is as humble and servants of Krishna. So we've only exercised, since time without beginning, our ego, our intelligence, our minds, and our senses to place ourselves in the state of prominence. And placing ourselves under the able and disciplinary care of Sri Gurudev, at least Bhaktivinoda Thakur here is showing us how we should pray. It's a frightening prayer because we might lose our sense of what we think is important. Ourselves, my identity, my position, my power, my potency. He's saying here, make me more humble than a blade of grass. And that takes a lot of work from the side of Sri Gurudev to cut at all of our ideas that make us important in this world. It's like our own self-preservation tendency. It's our eating, sleeping, mating, and protecting or defending is all based and founded on that principle. My importance, my survival, my legacy, my I and mine. All of that. And we're placing ourselves under the care of Sri Gurudev, knowingly and willingly, accepting that I am none of that. Really, I am a pure spirit soul, and I'm meant to love and serve Krishna. So I'm placing myself under your guidance to gradually remove all of that and make me as I truly am on the soul level. Humble, more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, completely free from vanity. So even in a small line like this, there's so much depth. Interestingly enough, today, I don't have my phone's there, but from 7 years ago, it was my memory from 7 years ago. Srila Gurudev, it was a quote from Bhakti Rasai, and Srila Gurudev was speaking about humility. And he was speaking about the extent of humility is seen according to, the extent of bhakti, bhav, and prem is seen according to one's progression in humility. So Vaishnavas, the more they are actually progressing on the path of bhakti, the more humble they are. Sri Guru is extremely humble. And the more you go, the higher you go in terms of the servant or the service mood toward Krishna, there you will find the greatest humility. And so you will find the extent of humility, the highest extent of humility present in none other than Srimati Radhika, who, if she sees anyone is capable of serving Krishna, she thinks, oh, I have something to learn from them. And her mood is, if they can please Krishna more than me, then I will gladly push them forward to serve Krishna. But as I was chanting, praying this bhajan, I saw that just that first line was popping out at me in a way that's quite a heavy prayer. Sometimes we don't realize what we're actually asking for. When you're asking Gurudev, make me humble, it's a pretty heavy request. Because to make us humble means our false egos must be cut. The subtle body made of mind, intelligence, and false ego will have to die so that we, the Atma, can live. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj was fond of quoting that statement, die to live. And it's not an artificial death. Some people think, oh yeah, by finishing my material body, then I will have my transcendental body. And Mahaprabhu says, no. If that were the case, don't you think we would have given up all of our material bodies already? Prema is not such a cheap thing. He told to Sanatana Goswami told the same thing to Raghunath Das Goswami, so it is not an artificial process. By the process of bhakti yoga, by following the activities of bhakti, then gradually our subtle body will become dissolved or digested, just like food placed in the stomach is digested. In other words, it will cease to exist any longer. And that thing which it supports, which is the material body, once the subtle body is completely dissolved, the material body will have no more bearing either. It won't be able to subsist. Only the Jiva Atma, the pure spiritual self, will continue to exist. Lord, please make me humble, but not just yet. I think we've been doing that for many millions of lifetimes. We're like, please, be merciful to me. One second. I can't digest that yet. Tomorrow. And tomorrow never comes. That's why when one accepts initiation from Sri Gurudev, at that time, there's actually a vow that takes place, that I am placing myself under your guidance and I will do as you say. I am voluntarily placing myself into this rehabilitation. In other words, this Jivatma has become covered by so many different layers that it has lost its own concept of itself and believes it is so many other things that it is not. It has become intoxicated, thoroughly intoxicated by this material world through all kinds of sensual enjoyment which act upon it like drugs that make one mad. Srila Prabhupada called it a hell of a pandemonium. If someone is there screaming that they're the emperor of the world, everyone looks at them going, my God, he's lost his mind. He's in an asylum and he's screaming that he's the emperor of the world. He's lost his mind. So, from that perspective, some rehabilitation is necessary. You've lost your way, you've lost your mind, you need to be cleansed of all of these things which have polluted your mind. And when we clean all of that out, and how is the cleaning done? It is done by the positive thing. So, in a sense, how do you clean something that's dirty? With clean water. And you keep cleaning it until all you have left is clean water. So Harinam Sankirtan, Shravana, Harikatha and Kirtan, the names, the forms, qualities and pastimes of Krishna, hearing and chanting, this is that water which is cleaning. And the more it cleans, gradually it will reveal, or what will remain will be the pure self. But for the false ego will have to starve so that the Atma can thrive. And that starving of the false ego is something which is quite difficult. The false ego begins to scream. Not only that, Jiv jago, Gora chanda bole, Go tanidra jao maya pishachira kole. We've been sleeping on the lap of the witch, Maya. And now we've come under the guidance of Gurudeva, Vaisnavas, Harinam, Caitanya Mahāprabhu, Vrindavan Dham, Thakurji, Rupa Anuga, Guru Varga. We've come under their guidance. And Maya is screaming, no, don't leave me. Like Putana was screaming to Krishna, leave me. But Maya is saying, don't leave me. You've been with me forever, don't leave me. I'll give you so many other things. So these are all of our bondages, our attachments in this material world. If we're holding on tightly to the lotus feet of Sri Gurudeva and the Vaishnavas and the process of bhakti, then gradually this will actually be easier to give up. If we are independent-minded, then it will be more difficult to give up. We won't want to. Then we will maintain this mood of tomorrow, next time. I'm not ready for it quite yet. But how many lifetimes have we done that? Really? Our Gurudev, he would tell to all of us, just give me this one lifetime. You've done it for millions and millions of lifetimes before. You've done everything there is to be done. Just give me this one. In other words, if you just give me one, I can work with you. I can work with you, but you have to give it to me. So, also the Guru-disciple relationship is not a cheap one. As Srila Govinda Maharaj said, disciple means one who voluntarily places themselves in a position where severe discipline is inflicted upon them by their Guru. And we have to accept that discipline with the understanding and the knowledge that this is good for me, it is favorable for me, I'm sick, I require medicine, I need help from beyond myself because on my own I can't do it. Not only can I not do it, but I don't want to. Right? I don't want to. Arjuna asked Krishna that question in Bhagavad Gita. What is it that makes you do something that you know is not good for you, as if against your will? Even you know you shouldn't, but you do it anyway. What is that thing? And Krishna said, it is lust only, the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. That means the desire to be the enjoyer, to enjoy through the medium of my senses, to be the center. Krishna says it is lust. So this lust is part of the material conditioning. And the way to wash away and cut away at that lust is by associating with pure devotees who have no lust, who will give us Krishna Katha, or pure love, that will superimpose itself over our material lust. In other words, as transcendental nectar, it will wash that mundane lust away. By transcendental calm, material calm will become insignificant. And by that, the disease of lust, hridrogam ashpapahinotya chirena dhira, the disease of lust in the heart will be eradicated. So it's a process, but we must maintain our allegiance to the lotus feet of Sri Guru, that I have placed myself under the able care of this expert doctor who understands my condition, who understands what my true nature is, who understands how to clean me away from all of my anarthas and how to place me in my eternal or real position, my eternal and real condition. And so that requires submittance, surrender, acceptance, without unnecessary, what's the word, Jiva Pavana Prabhu? Without unnecessary, I can't remember the word at the moment, it's the COVID brain fog. Opposition. Without unnecessary opposition. So, Gurudev Kripa Bindu Diya Koro Edase Trinapeka Atihi. And on my own, it's very difficult. One cannot do it on their own, really. Sometimes we think, oh yeah, I'm strong on my own. But actually, the conditioned soul is very, very weak on their own. And Maya is extremely powerful on her own. Daivihesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duraktaya. Krishna says it's his divine energy. Gunamayi, the three modes of material nature. His Maya, Mama Maya, my illusory potency is extremely difficult to overcome. But one who surrenders unto me, he says, can easily cross beyond it. So how does one surrender to him? Pratamam tu Gurum Pujam. First of all, surrender to Sri Guru. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshantite jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. First of all, following that process, and they will gradually teach us how to surrender to Krishna. So now we will call out for the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Sakala Vaishnava Gosai, Doya Koramori by Sri Radha Mohan Das, page 46. Sakala Vaishnava Gosai, Doya Koro More, Dante Trino Dhori, Kohe, Edino Pamare. Sakala Vaishnava Gosai, Doya Koro Caitanya, Shri Guru Charanaya, Shri Krishna Caitanya, Pada Padma Pavaya, Ore Kodhan, Pada Padma Pavaya. Savar Koruna Bine Iha Pratina Visheshe Ajogyami Ohilo Vishto Toma Savar Koruna Bine Iha Pratina Sheshe Ajogya Mui Ohilo Nishtra Vanchakalpa Taruha Karunasaga Vanchakalpa Taruha Karunasaga सीमा आमायुधारिया लोके देखाओ महिमा नाम संकीर्तन रुचि आर प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन रुचि आर प्रेम ए राधा मोहने देहो होयास करुणा ए राधा मोहने देहो होयास And now we will call out for the mercy of Sri Rupa Goswami. Shuniyachi Sadhumuke Bole Sarvajan. Did I sing that yesterday? I can't remember. And that's page 51 by Srila Narottam Das Thakur. Shuniyachi sadhu mukhe bole sarva jana Shri Rupa kripayo mile Nyugalacharana Shuniyachi sadhu Shri Rupero Kripa Jeno Ama Prati Ho Shri Rupero Kripa Jeno Ama Prati Ho Se Padaya Shrayo Ja Se Mahasho Se Pado Ashrayo Ja Se Mahasho Prabhu Lokanato Kave Sange Laya Jabe Prabhu Lokanato Kave Sange Laya Jabe Shri Rupero Pado Padme More Samarpide Shri Rupero Pado Padme More Samarpide Heno ki hoibe moro Dharmasaki gone Heno ki hoibe moro Dharmasaki gone Anugato narotame Doribe shasane Anugato narotame Doribe shasane Shuniyachi sadhu ke Bole sarvajana Shri Rupa Kripayo Mile Yugalacharana Shuniyachi sadhu ke Bole sarvajana Shri Rupa Kripayo Mile Yugalacharana Rupa Sanatan 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 Prabhu He Prabhu He Prabhu He Prabhu He O Prabhu He Prabhu He Prabhu He Prabhu He Shri Rupa Goswami Pad Ki Jai Shri Sanatan Goswami Pad Ki Jai Shri Rupanuga Gauri Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai And now we will call for the mercy of Śrī Nityananda Prabhu. Patit Pavana Śrī Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Nitai pada Kamala, Koti Chandra Shushitala, Jai Chayai Jagata Jurai. Page 58 by Srila Narottam Das Thakur. Or did we just do that yesterday? No, yesterday was another. Śrī Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Śrī Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Śrī Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhavatam Vrinda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhavatam Vrinda Nitai Pada Kamala চরণেরো পাশো রাখো রাঙ্গা চরণেরো পাশো রাখো রাঙ্গা চরণেরো পাশো রাখো রাঙ্গা नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय। प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम सचिनंदन गौर हरि की जय। Dandava pranam, all Vaishnava. Sorry Sonam, I don't think that bhajan is here in our Gaudiya Giti Gucha, and I'm not able to follow it on the phone because if there's any comments then it automatically scrolls. And we don't have that one here. Emona Gauranga Bina Nahin Ar. Page 69. By Srila Premananda Das Thakur. Emona Gauranga Bina Nahin Ar. Emona Gauranga Bina Nahin Ar. Emona Gauranga Bina Nahin Ar. Gauranga Bina Nahin Ar. Nandan Jai Gaura Hari Nandana Gaura Hari Ki Jai. And now we have come to any bhajan calling out for the mercy of Krishna. One second. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande by Srila Rupa Goswami. We actually don't sing that one very often, interestingly enough. And it's such a beautiful and powerful prayer. So Srila Rupa Goswami is praying to Krishna that although I have no bhakti, although even Lord Brahma in complete samadhi cannot capture the effulgence of even your toenails, although I have no qualification whatsoever, still you have the power to make the impossible possible. So let my mind, which is like a bumblebee, always go to your feet, which are like beautiful reddish lotus flowers. And the tune that I will sing, I've learned from Krishna Das Prabhu. It's not very popular, but he was very happy when he sang it. And he asked me, what did you think? And I said, it's nice. And Gurudeva told me to learn from him. It's like Sakala Gauranga. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Vande Scusi. Radha Naam Parama Sukhadayi. And that's in the Hindi section. Page 362. The only thing I want to have solid substance in is bhakti. Or I want to have it. No. I think they need a second opinion. And since this tune flows right into the Hare Krishna Mahamantra tune, we will flow this tune into Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So before calling out Hare Krishna Mahamantra, I know it's early, but still we have this, and then we have Hare Krishna, it will go for some time. We should have this prayer within our heart, calling out for the mercy of Radha and Krishna. That, O Radha, O Krishna, please accept me and please engage me in your loving service. Make me yours. And please awaken within me this understanding, the reality that actually, in reality, I am yours. I have always been yours and I will always be yours. Please engage me in your loving service. Leaving aside all other mundane temptations, material things which truly have no real importance or bearing on our atmas, including our birth, our place of birth, our sex of birth, our position within our birth, varna and ashram. Even that is all external to the nature of the soul. Mahaprabhu says, Naham vipro na cha narapati na api vaishyo na shudro Naham varni na cha grihapati no vanashto yatirva Kintu prodyan nikila paraman purnamritabdher Gopi bhartu padakamalayur dasa dasa anudasa. I am not a Brahmin, Naham vipro. Although we know that he was born in the highest of Brahmin families. And he was the best of all Pandits and could defeat even the greatest Digvijay Pandits, those who were seeking name and fame through their knowledge of scripture and their ability to logically argue. He would easily defeat them. Even then, he says, Naham vipro, I am not a Brahmin. Nacha narapati, nor am I the commander of thousands of soldiers. I am not a Kshatriya. Napi Vaishyo, I am not a Vaishya, a merchant. Na Shudra, neither am I a Shudra. Shudra is those who are assisting and helping the others. Naham Varni, I am not a Varni. I am not a Brahmachari. Nacha Grihapatir. I am also not a Grihasta who maintains a Griha. No Vanashto, I am not the forest dweller or Vanaprashta. Yatirva, Yatir is a Yati, is a sannyasi. Neither am I a sannyasi. And we see that externally he was, but really, he's saying, I'm not that. Kintu prodyan nikila paramanda purnamritabher gopi bharti padakamane or dasa dasa anudasa. What is my identity? If I'm not all of those things, what am I? I only identify as being the servant of the servant. Our Gurudeva would say, of the last servant's foot dust. Of Gopi Bhartu. That is the beloved of Gopi. That original Gopi, Srimati Radhika. I only identify with being that person, the servant of the servant of the servant of that Krishna, the beloved of Srimati Radhika, who is Kintu Prodyan Nikila Paramananda Purna Amritabhir. So supremely blissful, nectar, happiness, supremely effulgent and brilliant and full of all transcendental nectar. Only the servant of the servant of the servant of that personality who is the beloved of Srimati Radhika. That is my identity. Everything else is just external, he told Rai Ramananda. Go further, it's just external. And that was just the beginning. Then he had to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So when we're calling out and praying to Krishna, to Radha Krishna, in the form of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna means, O Radha, O Krishna. Hare is the vocative case of Hara. So in Sanskrit, when any lady's name ends with A, then when you're calling them, it turns to A. Radha, when you're calling her, He Radhe Vrajadevike Chalalite He, right? So you have that A, Radhe, Radhe. So from Hara comes to Hare. Krishna, O Radha, O Krishna, Hare Rama. For those who are exclusive on the path of devotion to Radha and Krishna, for them, Hare Krishna means Radha Krishna, Hare Rama. Rama in this case means Radha Rama iti Ramaha. This is Radha Raman, Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare means Hare Krishna, same. So calling out to Radha and Krishna like this, please accept me. Please engage me in your service. Please awaken my eternal relationship of loving service to you and engage me in that seva. Please make me qualified for this service. And while praying, when we are chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we should also be calling out very loudly, especially during Kirtan. As Narottam Das Thakur, he would say, Kandiba Uchaishware, weeping and calling out at the top of one's voice. Just today I was hearing some classical music theory, and they were talking about the different notes, and they were talking about how there's 7 notes, and then there's the 8th note, which is the octave above. And I remember when Gurudeva would tell Sudevi, well, you should sing in the 8th note. He wanted her to sing high and loud. And interestingly enough, Gurudeva also had Krishna Das doing the same thing. Gurudeva appreciated when someone would sing very high and very loud, and he himself did the same. If you listen to those old recordings, he'd be like, Hare Krishna, Krishna. And everyone else was struggling to hit the note, but he was calling out so high and so loud. So calling out very loudly with the hope that this prayer can be heard, and also for the benefit of all other jivas, those within human bodies, those within animal bodies, those within tree and bird and plant and insect and aquatic bodies, and those who are unembodied but who are still within subtle forms, subtle bodies. May they all hear that sound. May that vibration penetrate and awaken them to their eternal service, loving service at the lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha Krishna. Radha Naam Parama Sukhadayi. Radha Naam Parama Sukhadayi. Oh, one second. Radha Naam Parama Sukhadayi. Radha Naam Parama Sukhadayi. Oh, Radha Naam, Radha Krishna Radhe Radhe Govinda, Govinda Radhe, Radhe Radhe Govinda, Govinda Radhe, Radhe Radhe Govinda, Govinda Radhe, Radhe Radhe Govinda, Govinda Radhe. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Srila Gurudeva ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayanitti Namine Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitti Namine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim Yat kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. First of all, I offer my Dandavat Pranam thousands of times in the dust of the lotus feet of our beloved Gurudeva, Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad, Ashto Tarashata Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. The same thousands of Dandavat Pranam in the dust of the lotus feet of Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad, Ashto Tarashata Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And to all of our Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga, and to all Vaishnavas past, present and future, including all of you who are present with us today, we offer our Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, dear Vaishnavas. Radhe, Radhe, Radhe Sham.
Radhe Sham. So before entering into Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata, we'll first chant the first two verses of Śrī Shikshashtakam. You can imagine Sudevi's voice will be repeating. So they are by Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. Please repeat after me. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamahadavagni nirvapanam Shreyakairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyabadhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipadam Purnamritashvadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. And now the next verse, second verse. Please repeat. Naam Akari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrarpita Niyamita Smarane Nakala Etadrishi Tava Kripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaivam Idrisham Ihajani Nanuragaha. Shri Shikshashtakam ki jai. Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu ki jai. For those of you who don't know, for each chapter we're going to introduce another verse of Shri Shikshashtakam. So I don't know how long it'll take for us to finish 8. Well, 1, 2, 8 chapters. And now we will chant the first verse of Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur, Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata, glorifying Sri Nitai and Gauranga. Please repeat after me. Ajanulambita bhujo Kanakavadato Sankirtanaika pitaro Kamalaya taksho Vishvambharo dvijavaro Yugadharma palo Vande jagat priyakaro Karunavataro Patit Pavana Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Prem Purushottam Sachinandan Gaura Hari ki jai. Sudevi, they said they heard you shouting loud and clear. Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Nice. Where are the dweeps and the ulus? I don't see anyone uluing and dweeping on behalf of Sudevi. I guess I'll do it. There you go. So before entering into Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur, Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata, we will first pray in the dust of the lotus feet of the author, Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur, and the commentator, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, that may even a particle of their moods which are present within these pages manifest itself within our hearts. Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur ki jai. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki jai. Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata ki jai. And now we're within chapter 2 of this version, page 168, I believe. Text 61. So yesterday we were hearing about, it's quite exciting. I was discussing with Sudevi on our walk afterward, how exciting it is, because the first chapter was a lot of tattva, but it was necessary. It was all foundation, establishing Sri Nityananda Prabhu, or Guru, or the Dham itself, in tattva. And then, now Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur is setting the scene. He's explaining how different Vaishnavas are being born in different lands. And now he's talking about Navadvip, and how Navadvip was a great center of learning, and very intelligent persons from throughout all of India were coming to Navadvip Dham. There were hundreds of thousands, if not millions of persons. It was a great center of learning, with all facility for learning. And so many persons were present who were all great scholars, and they loved debating logic and all kinds of philosophical conceptions. So he's setting the scene. And so it's becoming more and more, I don't know, you can feel it. Something exciting is about to happen. And he's really bringing it closer. You can feel him condensing and condensing and condensing to that point. You know which point I'm talking about. So he's speaking about all of these great scholars, how even young children or young boys would challenge their teachers, and how everyone was expert in Shastra and in all kinds of logic and grammar and this kind of study. And because of the whole environment, everyone was absorbed in that kind of thought. So it was supporting education. Unfortunately, it wasn't centered around God, so to speak. It was centered around knowledge or material education, and therefore everyone was seeking pride or pratishta. And so as a culture becomes less God-full and more mundane, meaning the more you remove God from the center, the more mundane it becomes, then naturally the more sinful it becomes. So it is said that so many were engaging in all kinds of sinful activities. The whole universe was devoid of devotion to Krishna and Balaram, and the future symptoms of the age of Kali became manifest in the beginning of the age. So it is because people had forgot that serving Balaram and Krishna was their only occupational duty that all of these sinful or mundane tendencies began to manifest. So we ended yesterday with speaking about how our Guru Varga have put so much emphasis on the Yuga Dharma to somehow always chant Hare Krishna and share Krishna with others. The more that we share, the more that we bring Yuga Dharma or Harinam Sankirtan, Hare Krishna to the forefront, the more the materialistic mindset of the people will be adjusted, whether they realize it or not. Association is everything. And Harinam is more powerful than people's mundane foolishness or attachment to the material things. So all of our Guru Varga have instructed that Harinam Sankirtan is a must. It must be done for not only one's own benefit, but for the benefit of everyone in the world. So, text 64. Dharma karma loka sabe e matra jane mangala chandira gite kare jagarane. People's religion consisted of fruitive activities. And they would stay awake through the night chanting prayers to Mangala Chandi, the goddess Durga. So, fruitive activities means that they were karmis. They are following sections of the Vedas which prescribe certain kinds of ritualistic activities to obtain material results. That is known as a karmi. They're following the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, not just the people who we used to, when we were living on that street in Los Angeles growing up, Watsika Avenue, it was like a bubble. And anyone who lived outside of that street was a karmi. That's how we used to view it. And we knew that karmis would eat meat. What was meat? We didn't know. We weren't allowed to look at it. Our parents would cover our eyes as we'd walk past the meat aisle in the grocery store. So this was our idea of karmi. But actually, karmi means someone who is following the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. And all others are not considered karmi. Even these karmis can be considered within, technically, Vedic Dharma of some sort or another. But generally what we would call karmis are not technically karmis. They would be called antyajas. They're outside of the 4 varnas or 4 ashrams. They're outside of that. So another term for that would be out of caste. Or mlechas, yavanas, or asur. Meaning that their nature is not godly or centered on worshipping Krishna or following the Vedas, but rather it is simply for increasing one's kanaka, their material wealth, their kamani, their sense enjoyment, and their pratishta, their name, fame, and position, and power, and all of that kind of thing, social standing in society. So people's religion consisted of fruitive activities. In other words, this is called Kaitava Dharma. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, it is cheating religion, but anyhow, that was the religion of the people of the time. And they would stay awake through the night chanting prayers to Mangala Chandi, goddess Durga. Still to this day, in Bengal, the worship of goddess Kali or Durga or Chandi is quite prominent. So material knowledge was so predominant at that time that people mistook speculation devoid of devotional service to Hari as scholarship. Ordinary people believed that the supreme goal of following religious principles was to increase their material happiness and prosperity by hearing and chanting songs about Mangala Chandi. They actually mistook unnatural devotional endeavors. They mistook unnatural devotional. Let me just read that again with my glasses. They actually mistook unnatural, non-devotional endeavors for religion and thus increased the covering of desire for sense gratification, fruitive work, and speculative knowledge. They did not consider that worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord's devotees was the living entity's only goal. I like that. the worship of the lotus feet of the Lord's devotees is the living entity's only goal. So if we're trying to directly worship the lotus feet of Krishna, Krishna says no. He who's the devotee of my devotee is my real devotee. So this is a very great reminder. According to Shastra, according to our Guru Varga, Durga is, in essence, the form of the material energy, personified. Sometimes known as Krishna's younger sister, but for a particular purpose. So, persons who are of the material mindset worship the material goddess for material things. And very easily she provides them. But technically, Durga means two things. Durga means fort. What kind of fort is this material world? It is a prison fort. And we are all bound within this prison. Another thing Durga means is Durga. Please, anyone from an Indian background, what is the meaning of Durga if you split it into two words? Dur and Ga. For 50 points. What does dur mean and what does ga mean? Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wow. We've got a little bit of delay here. Dur means far. Maybe many of you have heard that sweet bhajan. Dur nagari, bari dur nagari. So dur means far, and ga means to go. So those who are worshipping, in essence, Durga, are going very far away from the worship of Krishna or bhakti. It's worshipping the material energy for material things, which binds us further in the material world. We get the result of our worship, which is material wealth, material position, material knowledge, material sense gratification, but we do not receive bhakti. Who is a famous person who was the worshipper of Durga? King Kamsa. And she came directly to him. And his mood was so self-centered, really, that when she came to him in the form of a baby, he tried to kill her. He didn't realize it was her, but this was the nature because it wasn't based on love and affection. He only wanted to take and take and take. He tried to kill her. But anyhow, she turned into the magnificent Durga form as she was rising up into the air, and she kicked him in the head and called him a fool. She kicked him in the head. And then we also see that there are many other forms of Kali and Durga and Chandi. And there was one case, which is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, where some dacoits were servants of goddess Kali. And they were worshipping her, but one of the ways they worshipped her was by sacrificing animals and dumb people. So they found one very dumb person in the forest. His name was Dumb, or Jar Bharat. He was like, he wasn't speaking, he was pretending to be deaf. He was just not connecting or communicating with anyone in the world. They thought, great, here's a great offering for goddess Kali. So they took this Jar Bharat and they put him on the sacrificial altar. And when they were just about to perform their sacrificial rites of this human sacrifice, because he's a pure devotee of Krishna, and she is the servant of Krishna, she could not tolerate it. So she burst out of her murti form and literally killed all of those servants of hers. So I remember hearing our Srila Gurudev speaking about this, that those who are worshipping her for material things, she will even kill them. And that's why she has all these skulls hanging around her neck and everything. It's her own servants, her own devotees, because their mood is wrongly placed. So she protected Jarbhara, the devotee of Krishna, because she also is a servant of Krishna ultimately, but she performs a certain function. Maya is also a servant of Krishna. She's performing a certain function. Therefore, Shastra says, Chaitanya Charitamrita also states, that Maya stands at a very far distance from Krishna with her head bowed low, out of shame because of the service that she has to perform, of deluding the jivas of this world. Maya cannot touch that transcendental realm. She cannot even cross the viraja, or the dividing line between the material and spiritual realms. She's standing at a very great distance, with her head held in shame, although she is Krishna's divine deluding potency. So, those who are worshipping Durga or Kali or any other form, even worshipping Krishna, but for material purposes, Srimad Bhagavatam starts right off in the beginning saying, Dharma projita kaitavatra paramo nirmatsararam satam vedyam vastamamatra vastu shivadam tapuntrayon mularam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamunikate kim vaparar ishvara sadhyo hriddavarudyate trakritibi sushrushabhis takshanat. Srimad Bhagavatam starts off by rejecting all kinds of worldly religious activities that are materially motivated, and establishes in its place Bhagavat Dharma, or the natural occupation of all jivas, which is also synonymous with the term Jaiva Dharma and Sanatan Dharma, which is to love and serve Krishna as the highest truth, reality distinguished from illusion, for the welfare of all. And Srimad Bhagavatam, because of this, is relished by those who are thoroughly honest and who have no envy in their heart, even though there might apparently be some external mistakes. But the intent, the purpose, is to awaken pure Krishna bhakti, devoid of anya abhilash, any other desire other than serving, pleasing Krishna for his happiness, his pleasure, his benefit. It's silly to worship Krishna for material things, but yet anyhow, if you want material things, then Shastra says, akama sarva kama va moksha karma udaradi, that anyhow you serve Krishna. And Krishna will fulfill your desire in such a way that you will never desire it again. So, anyhow, one should always approach Krishna. We've seen that so many have attained perfection in any way by serving Krishna. Kubja, she attained perfection in lust for Krishna. She attained perfection. In so many different ways attained perfection. Kamsa attained perfection in fear. So there's so many different ways of attaining perfection, but there's, of course, speciality in the idea of perfection as well. Perfection can be attain Krishna, but how does one attain Krishna? Does one attain Krishna in love and affection for his happiness, his pleasure, and his benefit? Or does one attain Krishna in terms of liberation, mukti, entering or merging into his form or his effulgence? Krishna is so many different things because he's everything. So what aspect, what form are we appreciating? Are we approaching? Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam. Putana approached Krishna in the guise of a mother, but she had smeared poison on her breast and her desire was to kill him. Still, Krishna liberated her and gave her the position as an eternal nursemaid in Goloka Vrindavan. But that same verse says, what to speak of those who approach him with the desire to love him? There's something more. And those who desire to love him for his happiness, pleasure, and benefit, he becomes completely controlled by them. Premanjanat churita bhakti vilochenena sanktak sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shyam sundaram achintya gunasvarupam govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. Whose eyes are smeared with the salve of love. They will always have darshan of Shyama Sundar, Krishna. They will always see him. Who has pure love and affection for Krishna, he will become attracted to them and will come under their control by his own desire, because he loves to be controlled by love and affection. Yes, there's that verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, perhaps someone can post it, where Krishna himself is stating that if my devotee has any material desire and they pray to me for fulfillment of that desire, I will fulfill it in such a way that they will never desire that again. So Krishna has a way of being quite tricky because he doesn't want to let go. Anyone who has surrendered to him, then he won't let them go. So one way or another, sometimes it is said he will drag them by their hair. One way or another, but he doesn't want to let them go, so he will fulfill your desire, but in such a way. Let me see, there's an example. Oh yes, example of Narada Muni. This happened at one point. Narada Muni wanted to know what Krishna's Maya is. I remember hearing this from Gurudeva. So we should understand this is a pastime. Narada Muni is a transcendental eternal associate of the Lord. He's present in practically all of the Leelas of the Lord. He's present as Narada Muni, also in all different Leelas as Narada Muni. He goes to Vrindavan, he goes to Dwarka, he goes to Mathura, he's also in Ram Leela, he's in every pastime. In the pastimes of Narasingha, he's in every pastime. He's also in Vrindavan, in Krishna Leela as Madhu Mangal Sakha, the cowherd boy known as Madhu Mangal, that is also Narada Muni. And also as a gopi, as Naradiya Gopi. So he's present in all pastimes. So we should understand that when we see something that looks like an apparent fall down, for such a personality, this is Leela, or a lesson, produced by Krishna's internal potency, known as Yogamaya, not necessarily Mahamaya. Like we are all bound by Krishna's external Bahiranga Shakti, material energy, material potency, or Mahamaya. We're covered by that. But the eternal associates of the Lord, they cannot be covered by Mahamaya. If Krishna wants, but anyhow it doesn't usually happen like that. They are covered by his Yogamaya potency for teaching all of us any lesson. So I just wanted to clarify that before I tell this so that no one has any wrong idea. So this Narada Muni, he desired to understand what is Krishna's Maya. And Krishna was like, really? You want to understand what my Maya is? He's like, yeah, I've heard so much about it, but I need to understand it practically. And Krishna's like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, I can handle it. And then suddenly, he was in a completely different area. And he saw the most beautiful, charming lady taking water from the well. I guess that's quite an attractive thing. Actually, it's quite attractive. Carrying the water and the pots. Krishna's attracted to that also. So anyhow, he provided this illusion for Narada Muni. Narada Muni was completely smitten, and he followed her home, asked to have her hand in marriage. He was completely, utterly obsessed. And sure enough, he was married to her. He had a big family, big house, so many children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and he was just completely absorbed in this whole sansar. And then after some time, something happened. It so happened that then the children and the grandchildren, they felt like, oh, this old man, he's just in the way. We don't need him anymore. So they kicked him out. They kicked him to the street. And then they would abuse him so much They would call him all kinds of names and words and useless and really mistreat him heavily. And at a certain point he began calling out, Krishna help me, Krishna help me. And immediately the illusion was broke, and there he was standing with Krishna right where he was before. So this kind of thing, this is an example of how Krishna will fulfill our desire in such a way that we will never want it again. The personality of Godhead said, if I especially favor someone, I gradually deprive him of his wealth. Then the relatives and friends of such a poverty-stricken man abandon him. In this way, he suffers one distress after another. When he becomes frustrated in his attempts to make money and instead befriends my devotees, I bestow my special mercy upon him. That's from Srimad Bhagavatam 1088 and 1089. Yes, our Srila Prabhupada said he was always afraid of this verse. Yasyaham anugranami. He was telling, when he spoke about his own sannyas, many other times he spoke it to our Gurudeva as well. Because he saw it happening in his own life. He was like, I was always afraid of that verse. What is that one, Krishna Premavati? Please post. If anyone has that katha from our Gurudeva about Narada Muni, you can also post it here. I always like the original source for reference, because I've only told what I remember of it at the moment in a very short and condensed way. But it is an example of how Krishna is fulfilling the desire, but in such a way that they lose all taste for it. So it is the mercy of Krishna as well. So ordinary people believed that the supreme goal of following religious principles was to increase their material happiness and prosperity by hearing and chanting songs about Mangalachandi. They actually mistook unnatural, non-devotional endeavors. They mistook it for religion and thus increased the covering of desire. In other words, by those activities, they were actually binding themselves further and deeper in samsara. Increase the covering of desire for sense gratification, fruitive work, and speculative knowledge. They did not consider that worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord's devotees was the living entity's only goal. So, we understand that. Shri Rupa Manjari Pada, same or Sampara, same or Bhajana Pujan, same or Pranadhana, same or Abharana, same or Jivan and Jivan. The goal of our everything, all of our practices, all of our bhajan, all of our puja, our chanting of mantras, our chanting of Harinam, all activities in bhakti is to somehow become like a particle of dust on the lotus feet of Shri Rupa Manjari, that is the Lord's devotees. So that is our only goal. Worshipping the feet of the Lord's devotees is living entities' only goal. Text 65. Damba kari vishahari puje ko na jan, utali kare keho diya bahudhan. Some people proudly worshipped Vishahari, the goddess of snakes, and others spent great wealth on idol worship. Recently we've heard about Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, how he was questioning, so you're building these murtis out of clay? Yes. And what will you do? Oh, we're going to do a puja and we're going to call the goddess to enter this form. So he watched every step of the way. So when is she gonna, they said the Didi will come alive. So when is she gonna come alive? And this is when he was young, very young. Oh, after the Pram Pratishtha. So he's like, so you're doing Pram Pratishtha? They said, yes. Is she alive? And then they said, actually, we just do it as a ritual. We don't know. But what they do then is they chant all the mantras for Pram Pratishtha, meaning bringing life to that form. And then as soon as they finish their puja, they discard the deities. And they throw them either in the river or in some dump. There was something circulating on Facebook where there was a bulldozer and all of these thousands and thousands of deities from all these pujas were just being bulldozed. This is considered aparad, offensive. You've called some deity to enter, the deity, a god or demigod, to enter that form, and then you finish your puja and discard. It's considered offensive. So when we receive Thakurji, Gurudev said that you are responsible. Even after you leave this body, you are still responsible for them. That's a big, big job. Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami and our other Goswamis put a system into place where the service of the deity would continue through the generations. And so you see it today, how the Thakurji of Vrindavan are being worshipped so beautifully. Govindaji is now in Jaipur being served very beautifully by Gauriya Vaishnavas. Radharaman is being served by the Goswamis of Radharaman. Here in Vrindavan, Radha Damodar, Radha Shyam Sundar, all being served so nicely. Madan Mohan is in Karoli. But a system was put in place where the continued worship of the deity was put in place, because the responsibility continues to be there, even after one's departure from this world. Also, Archa Vigraha. If the pure devotee has requested Krishna to enter into this form, until the pure devotee says, leave that form, Krishna is bound to remain there. That is why there is such a thing called Seva Aparad. Because if you neglect service to your Thakurji, Guru, Sri Guru has requested Krishna, please stay in this form and accept the worship of your devotee. That means Krishna is bound to be there, which means he's there. Which means if we neglect him and do not serve, then we are making aparad to Krishna. In the same way as if you had a little baby and you didn't serve, take care, nourish that baby, it would also be aparad to that baby, and you would be maybe taken away and put in prison for neglect. So there is a reaction for that, always a reaction for that. So it's quite a serious undertaking to accept and to serve Thakurji who have been installed or given pran pratishtha by a pure devotee. So others spent a great wealth on idol worship. Interestingly enough, idol worship or idolatry is considered different than worship of Archa Vigraha, this form of the Lord. Idol worship, our Param Gurudev Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj mentioned, because there was conversations, especially with persons of the Christian faith, where they would really heavily reject Hindus or Vaishnavas for idol worship. And Srila Param Gurudev Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj said, so you're worshipping your book. You're worshipping your form of Jesus. Or you're worshipping some figment of imagination in your mind. You know, some rainbow or opening of the clouds with rays of light penetrating through. Oh, this is God. If you do not have a proper bona fide form of God established by all of the definitions in Shastra and established by a pure devotee of the Lord, then you are bound to create some idea of God by figment of imagination, and that is idolatry. And even doctors of the faith, doctors of the Catholic or Christian faith, have explained that idolatry means to place anyone or anything in a position of prominence, either above God or that takes one away from the service of God. So these days you have pop idols, rock stars, movie stars, tabloid stars, whatever stars, all of these persons that are called idols. That's idolatry. And even if one is giving more preference to their own family members than Krishna, that is also idolatry. So our Gaudiya Guru Varga have gone very deeply into this conception of and they've been able to prove to pastors and teachers and ministers. I think there's a conversation between Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada and someone called Professor Suthers. You can find it in that big book called Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur. It's a big, like, coffee table book. And in there, that conversation is there, and they're discussing this particular point. It's quite eye-opening. Because the general idea is, you guys worship idols, and we worship money, sex, drugs, our families, all kinds of material things, and they're looking over there, you're worshiping idols. Oh no, there's definitely a large amount of idolatry going on. Worshipping the president, or worshipping some rock star, worshipping whatever. There's all kinds of idolatry going on. The forms of the deity that we worship are called Archa Vigraha, or the avatar of the Lord in the form of the deity, in the form of the Murti. So Krishna himself has consented to manifest within this form, which is the form which has been described in Shastra. How Krishna is. Shyamam Tribhanga Lalitam Niyata Prakasham. Standing, holding a flute to his lips in a beautiful threefold bending form, casting sidelong glances, his eyes like lotus petals, his foot crossed like that. Shyamam evam param rupam. His complexion like a darkish monsoon rain cloud, unless he's Vinod Bihari, so obsessed with Srimati Radhika that his complexion turns like hers, and how she's standing there, sometimes holding anything as an offering or with her hand on his shoulder. All of the descriptions are there in Shastra, so it's not a figment of our imagination. It is the vision of the pure devotees. And so those forms are made, and then the Lord is called to remain within those forms. So that is called Archa Vigraha. It is different than idolatry. Excuse me. I'm mostly better, just some little residue. Hare Krishna. So ordinary people, particularly the rich mercantile community, lavishly spent money for the worship of Manasa Devi, another name of Vishahari, the goddess of snakes. They purchased the entire Brahmin and Pandit communities and kept them under their control. So something goes on even to this day in Vrindavan and all over India, that the wealthy mercantile community, you can see it in almost every shop, every single morning. So many of the wealthier ones, they hire Brahmins or priests to come, and they sit in their shop in the morning and they do a whole puja. Really, it's for the prosperity and the benefit and the health and the wealth of the family who owns that shop. And so they're doing it on their behalf. So that is called ritvik, meaning they're doing this puja on their behalf. So there's some kind of yajman. And it is everywhere. So here it is said, they purchased, these very wealthy persons purchased the entire Brahmin and Pandit communities and kept them under their control. So with their money, they purchased the Brahmin and Pandit communities. This is why, of the 4 things which are disqualifications for bhakti, Janma, high birth, Aishwarya, wealth, Shruta, high education, and Shri, bodily beauty, the wealth one is considered the most detrimental, the most dangerous. Why? Because by excessive wealth, one can purchase the services of the other, even if they have no other qualification other than money. And we see that very prominently exercised in today's world. That money is considered the top. Even if someone is ugly, no education, no good birth, no good qualities, but if they have money, they can purchase everyone and make them their servants. So this increases one's ego and pride to such an extent. How could they engage in bhakti? How can they develop humility? So it is considered the most detrimental. Mahaprabhu says it can make one's heart wicked. What activities one might not ordinarily perform, if they have a lot of money, they will experiment with all kinds of nonsense activities because they've got the freedom and the capacity to do it. In other words, as our Srila Gurudev said, if someone is excessively wealthy, then with that comes excessive lust. And Srila Gurudev explained, because they know that at any moment they can have whatever they want. So the lust inflames within the heart. Because they have conviction that in any moment I can satisfy that desire. So it inflames even more. So they kept them under their control. They had various idols and deities of demigods and goddesses made, and they donated large sums of money in charity. Even today, the practice of making various kinds of idols is current at the time of Rasa Yatra. Instead of serving the deity of the Supreme Lord on the spiritual platform, they followed the system of idol worship and spent huge amounts of money on festivals. Later, they immersed those idols in the water and proved the flickering nature of their worship and their object of their worship. So this is what I was just speaking about before. Just after their big, lavish festivals with their deities and everyone's like, woo! Then they take their deities and drown them. So this proves that actually they didn't really have devotion to those deities. They didn't have devotion to their worship either. It was all a facade. So proving the flickering nature of their worship and their object of worship. Now, let me just mention that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada became quite unpopular among a lot of these communities for speaking this kind of truth. Nevertheless, the truth must be spoken. So because they spent large amounts of money on useless purposes, the worship of deities such as Sri Jagannath Dev was rarely found in Bengal. People who want quick material results worship the demigods. Krishna even says this in Bhagavad Gita. Not understanding that actually those results are ultimately bestowed by me, Krishna says. So they're worshipping in a wrong way. They're placing their faith here and there in so many personalities. But if that's your goal in life, is to eat, sleep, mate, and defend, and enjoy, accumulate wealth and sense gratification and position and name and fame, then very, very easily you can gain all of that by worshipping material deities. And it can make you look like you are quite devotional, and people can easily be misled by that. But what is the purpose? What is the real goal? There's so much faith, so much faith. But what is the desire behind it? Wow, I love their faith. It's beautiful. What is that desire behind it? It's not for the happiness, pleasure, benefit of Krishna. It's not for loving affection to Krishna. It's really for oneself. So it's only further encapsulating one. It's adding layers to one's conditioning. More and more and more, like a spider in a web. Flipping, not a spider, a fly in a spider's web, flipping this way and that way. Each time it flips, it binds itself even more and more and more and more. It's turning and using all of its energy, but it's only binding itself. So when utilizing the energy toward material things for material purposes, we're only binding ourselves further and creating more and more layers. Only by serving Krishna and his pure devotees are these layers cut open, and are we allowed to become free. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada is saying that they were worshipping all of these idols spending large amounts of money on useless purposes. And because of this, worship of deities, such as Sri Jagannath Dev, was rarely found in Bengal. Another reading of the second line is Putali Vibhadite Deya Bahudhana, which indicates that people who were maddened with material enjoyment uselessly and proudly spent money in marriage ceremonies between male and female monkeys, cats, and dolls. In this way, they increased their aversion to the Lord. Yes, it can still be found today where they perform marriages between dogs, or marriages between cows, or marriages between cats, or even dolls. So many things like that you can find, especially out in Bengal. And male and female monkeys. Large amounts of money spent. So people just kind of lost the plot. It's like a massive train derailment. The train is supposed to be going to Krishna, but oh, look at that. The second one is not holding tightly to the feet of Sri Gurudev. The moment one, Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Gosai Maharaj said, the moment one deviates, even slightly, they can be thrown off the path into oblivion forever. So naturally, one starts making up and concocting and creating all kinds of interesting stuff. If one is not under guidance, proper guidance, of Sri Guru, of the pure Vaishnava sadhus, and of pure transcendental shastras. Even today, you will find so many who worship the dead. Yeah, we were staying in a place, it was quite frightening actually. I mean, they have photographs on the walls of their relatives, but not when they were alive, after they died. Like, you kind of put a chadar up and you're like, it's different. And a lot of worshipping of ghosts, a lot of dark arts, a lot of black magic, really in the tamasic section of the Vedas maybe, or any scriptures, they will find these tamasic or dark things. But the purpose of all of it is, I don't know, there's a lot of heavy rituals, a lot of ritual. But it is not for Krishna Bhakti. It is almost to distract one from Krishna Bhakti. Anything else other than Krishna Bhakti. Okay, let's make 1,000 million rituals so that we don't focus on service, love and affection, devotion to Krishna. And you will see that this happens naturally. In any society that is not under the guidance of any pure Vaishnava, more and more and more rituals will be introduced. And the essence or the foundational teachings will be reduced. And after some time, it will become something unrecognizable. Wait a second, that's not how it was. I can say, and Raghu can say, Radhe Radhe Dandavat Pranam, John Raghu Gifre, who just came on now, he is one of the oldest Gurukulis. He's the son of Jagadatri, and he came to Srila Prabhupada when he was about 10 years old. He received Harinam from Prabhupada when he was 10 years old. And so he's seen it all from the beginning also. How it was so simple and how the whole mood was about service to Krishna, service to Srila Prabhupada, serving Hare Krishna Mahamantra, both by taking part in chanting and by distributing. How simple everything was, and how it has changed over time to become something very, very different. Some of it is great, some of it is beautiful, some of it is wonderful, and some of it is, where did that come from? How did that happen? How did that get there? So we've had many, many years of witnessing the gradual introduction of other things. I'll give one example. An introduction of other things. So we were sitting there watching a drama. This drama was about the kidnapping of Rukmini. And so many GBCs and sannyasis were also present watching. Many seniors, so many people. And in this drama, which was done really well, there were some elements in it that we started getting a little bit concerned about. But everyone else seemed to think it was just fine. What were these elements? Well, according to Shastra, Krishna is in Dwarka weeping and crying for Srimati Radhika and the gopis in Vrindavan. According to all of our Gaudiya Vaishnava scriptures, that is what is truly happening. But in this drama, it was apparently not known about this fact. So in the drama, Krishna is sleeping and Balaram walks in, taps him on the chest with his club and says, "So are you thinking about that girl in Vrindavan again?" He's like, no. This one is like so much more amazing. This one I want to marry. At that point, we realized this is rasa abhas. This is also not in alignment with the teachings of Mahaprabhu or Rupa Goswami. And everyone was sitting there laughing and appreciating and thinking it was wonderful. We literally started crying and walked out. We got in our car, we drove home with Mangalacarana on full blast, and we're just weeping and crying and thanking our Gurudev. Thank you for giving us clarity on these issues. Because without somebody who's able to see these things, Sri Guru, who understands and who is telling us about these things, it's so easy to derail and one won't even realize it. Like Gurudev said, poison can go in and you won't even know it. And so it's so essential to have association of any pure Vaishnava who will help to steer us, to guide us, to clarify, to reconcile, to also cut us from danger and to keep us on that clear and proper path. Because it's so easy to veer off the path, and we have this tendency since forever. Think of it like this. We have been moving with so much momentum in the material world since time without beginning toward the fulfillment and satisfaction of our sensual desires. That is what our momentum is. And Gurudev is trying to take us and basically cause us with faith to swim upstream against the current that we have been accustomed to flowing with. So we feel it. And it's so easy to, if we're not holding on tight and maintaining that enthusiasm and hearing the words of Gurudev, come on, do it, you can do it, let's go. Poof, to just be taken by the current and just, I don't want to do it. And again, we flow back in the material realm. But really we're meant to flow toward Krishna. We're meant to flow toward Krishna. But we've been artificially, in a sense, floating toward the material energy forever. Srila Prabhupada said Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. It's not an artificial thing. It is actually our true inherent intrinsic nature to love and serve Krishna. But due to being covered by the material energy since time immemorial, we have begun to, we have accepted that which is not, or Maya, to be reality versus Krishna. So we're stuck in a situation which is, you can say, unfavorable. And it's very easy to derail back into that. Very easy. It only takes one little thing. That one videotape. As I told you before, we were watching Mahabharata in a series. We came to number 23, and we went to the video store, and we said, do you have number 24? And they said, no, it's rented out. And we were like, they said, well, you can take 25. We said, no, we don't want to miss the flow. Do you have anything else about Krishna? And they said, yeah, this one. They gave us Dilwale Duhaniya Le Jayenge. This was, 1994, 95, before Gurudev came to the West. So they gave us that. And we were very, studiously watching Mahabharata and really trying to be good, good. And so the video store man gives us Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge, and we watched that. And we didn't rent Mahabharata again. Then we were just renting Shah Rukh Khan. And we was like, boom, 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 boom. That's how easy it is to derail. One small hole in the boat, Prabhupada said, and Maya will flood that place. So we should be very careful to always be alert. To always be alert. How easy it is for Maya to flood our boat. So we must be careful to plug those holes. Come on, I'm expecting some of you from India to... So, let me just quickly read this. Oh, it was interesting because they said they spent lavishly on marriage ceremonies. Now, that's not only between animal and animal, also for humans. Making that the most important thing. And to this day, and it's becoming a big, big thing. We've gone to a few wedding ceremonies in India. We went to one that was a diamond, a jeweler, like a jewelry salesperson. It must have been, it was so ostentatious. They must have had 100 different places for eating different kinds of things from all foreign countries. They were making ice cream for you right there. They had, some rock band on stage, and a bunch of little stages with people playing music and people dancing. And everyone who's who in Vrindavan was present there. It was amazing, a massive extravaganza. But behind their back, everyone was going, what a waste of money. For that one day, they're spending 10 million rupees. And everyone is trying to now copy what they call Bollywood weddings. And it's also come into Vaisnava circles. So now we have to have so much pomp and this and that and everything else. When Srinivas Acharya, was it Srinivas Acharya? Yes. No. Govinda Das Kaviraj and Ramchandra Kaviraj. They saw this wedding ceremony thing going on like that. And he told his brother, Govinda Das, Ramchandra Kaviraj told Govinda Das, what are you doing with your life? He came in like that, on a palanquin with the whole thing and all the pomp and splendor. He said, what are you doing with your life? And he preached to him, and that moment he walked away. He walked away. So when I told Gurudev, it's a very important institution, Gurudev immediately lashed out at me. No, not so important. He said, it will bind you in this world. And then where is Krishna? He said, attachment to Hari, Guru, Vaishnavas, to your Hari Naam and Diksha mantras. This is important. Everything else is not important. So all of these things that are being given so much attention, this is not the point of that. It's a support that, yes, we're all acknowledging so that you can maintain this situation. But it is not about making that one's all and all. Yes, and still it is so. So it's happening all over India. It's happening in all different institutions, in ISKCON and Gaudiya Math and this place and that place. Our wedding, we had one Diya, one small ghee lamp, the smallest little ghee lamp. And Gurudev was like, look, there's fire. And then afterward he said, if any of you want a big fire, then you can go and do it anywhere else, any other time, if you want a big fire. But he had acknowledged, fire is here. And that was it. Gurudev was there, the Vaishnavas were there, Sevakunj Thakurji were there, the mantras were there, the little fire was there. And at the end of the whole ceremony, Gurudev said, actually, I tricked you. That was what he said. Actually, I tricked you. Really, all of the mantras we chanted, everything that we had you do, all of the rituals, were to bind you, to marry you to Radha and Krishna. That was what Gurudev said at the end of our whole little marriage thing in 1996. So that was his mood. His mood was not to bind us further in this material world. What one already was at, okay, from there. But don't bind yourself further. On the path of bhakti, devotion, we should try to relinquish our bindings and try to become more and more exclusively dedicated and devoted to Krishna. So now the time has come to an end. I've told a lot. Oh, the internet didn't cut out, did it? You want me to repeat that, Shyam Prabhu? Okay. So I have to just give a little detail. So it was 1996 when we first arrived in Vrindavan or Mathura, when we saw Gurudev. He actually asked us, has your Vedic wedding been done yet? And we said no. And we'd already been married for some time, Western. But he said, has your Vedic wedding been done yet? We said no. He said, oh, would you like it? I can do it for you. And we're like, okay. And he even offered, like, oh, you can come in front of me and you can exchange garlands and you can vow your love and affection to each other. He said it like a Gandharva wedding, like Radha and Krishna. And he made it all exciting. And we're like, okay. And I was a little concerned at that point that it wouldn't be a nice wedding. And then halfway through Kartik, some of the Gaudiya Math discovered that Gurudev was going to perform the wedding. And besides our Srila Prabhupada, technically no other sannyasi in Gaudiya Math, especially not Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti, had ever performed a wedding. Prabhupada himself acknowledges in his Chaitanya Charitamrita writings that it is against the rules for sannyasi to do so. But he had to break those rules for the greater benefit, for the greater good, for spreading the mission of Caitanya Mahāprabhu. Dandavat pranam. You also be well. Jiva Bhavana Prabhu. So our Srila Gurudev had offered to do it. There were going to be 4 couples, Sudevi and myself, Raghava and Nagari at the time, and Mathuranath and Chandrakala, and Rasaraj and Krishnakanta, 4 couples. And Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti found out about it, and it just became a big to-do, a big thing. And then they told us it's not going to happen. And then they said, oh, it's going to happen, but it's going to be really small. And then they said, it's not going to happen. Then they said, well, it's going to happen, but, you don't need to, dress special or anything. It should just be like in your normal clothes. It's going to be like a nothing. And so I was getting quite concerned because it was on, off, fancy, not fancy. And I was thinking I'm going to get in big trouble from my wife. She'll never forgive me for a bad wedding. So I went to see Srila Gurudev, quite concerned. This is 1996. Mind you, the entire Kartik had been speaking very strongly about ekantik, one-pointed bhakti to Krishna. So I sat down next to his bed about 5 days before the end of Kartik, on my knees, very high. And he looked at me and said, yes. And I said, I just want to make sure that our marriage is going to be a nice one. Because, and this was from where I grew up, I was witnessing all of these big weddings and nice, beautiful, important ceremonies. I said, because marriage is a very important institution. And he snapped back at me, no, not so important. He said, it will divide your bhakti in 2. And then he said, and then children, house, family, and he came to the last finger and he said, where is Krishna? So by the time he came to that last finger, I already saw the Mahabharata movies as they were shooting one arrow and each one was dividing. And by the time it was fully divided out, it was like thousands of arrows. I was like, ah. And he came to the end and I was thinking at that very moment, Krishna's not even 10%, not even 5%, not even 2%. And he said, where is Krishna? I was like, 10% of 10%. Oh my God, only 1%. I can't. And I was I was in a state of shock actually. I felt very small on the floor at the moment, like a pea. And he said, Harinam is important. Your Diksha mantras, your relationship with Guru, Gauranga, Radha and Krishna, this is important. Everything else, he said, is not important. And so I just wanted to share that again because you requested it. I hope you were able to receive it or hear it this time because of the cutout. But anyhow, he did the wedding, but he made it clear what the purpose was. He made it clear what the purpose was, and that we shouldn't bind ourselves more in material attachment, but that we should assist each other toward developing our nishta in the lotus feet of Gurudeva, our service mood toward Guru Gauranga and Radha and Krishna. It wasn't for the purpose of increasing our material enjoyment or material facility or material anything else. So Srila Gurudeva made that point very clear and early on. And then he would tell us, like, wherever you are, okay, from there, but now you should increase toward Krishna. Just give me this one life. Give me this one life. You've given your life to everything else for millions of lifetimes. Give this to me, and I will make you qualified to serve Radha and Krishna. So this was his mood and his intention. So now we have come to the end of our katha today. Thank you very much for being with us and giving us this opportunity. If there's anything I've said that has pinched anyone, please forgive me. It's not my intention. If there's anything I've said that is good, you should know that is from Gurudeva and our Guru Varga, the Vaisnavas. Srila Gurudeva ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Kate
Teague?
Yes, it was her birthday yesterday and she's here today. Can we do a flower shower for her?
Yes. So Kate McTeague, right after the Hare Krishna, we'll do a flower shower for you.
For her birthday.
For your birthday yesterday. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Gurudev, Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Gurudev, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Okay, everyone, please gather your flowers together. Let's see some flowers. And Kate Matik, please take your seat among thousands of well-wishing, affectionate Vaishnavas,
Headed by our Gurudev.
headed by our Srila Gurudev, who we should see is presiding this birthday flower shower. Okay, and our Gurudev would lead these prayers, so we are doing it as proxies for him. But we should see that he is presiding there. Please repeat after me. Mangalam Bhavatu.
Mangalam Bhavatu.
Guru Nishta Bhavatu.
Guru Nishta Bhavatu.
Krishna Bhaktir Bhavatu.
Krishna Bhaktir Bhavatu.
Radha Dasyam Bhavatu.
Radha Dasyam Bhavatu.
Then our Gurudev would say,
Kalyanam Bhavatu.
Kalyanam Bhavatu. May you be happy in this life. May you be happy in any future life, any future situation. May you be happy all the way into perfection forever.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Jai. Radhe Radhe. Srila Gurudeva ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Rupanuga Gauriya Guruvarga ki jai. Pratik Pavana Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Prem Purushottam Shachinandana Gaura Hari ki jai. Radha Binu Biharju ki jai. Radha Ramanju ki jai. Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Hari Naam Sankirtan ki jai. Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Govinda Damodar Madhaveti Govinda Damodar Madhaveti Govinda Damodar Madhaveti Govinda Damodar Madhaveti Bolo Radhe 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 Jai 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 Shri Radhe 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 Jai 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 Shri Radhe 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 Jai 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 Shri Radhe Bolo Radhe 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 Jai 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 Shri Radhe Shri Vino Bihari Ju ki jai 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 Shri Radhe Jai Jai Shri Radhe Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam Gaura Premanande
Hari Bol.
So thank you all very, very much for being with us today and giving us the opportunity to remember the beautiful teachings of our Gurudev and Guru Varga.
Keep talking. Sorry.
We'd also like to express our deepest appreciation and indebtedness to each and every one of you for daily giving us the opportunity to follow the order of our Srila Gurudev, which is our life and soul. We look forward to being with all of you tomorrow. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna.
Radhe Radhe.
Radha Vinu Bihariju Sachinandana Gaura Hari ki
Jai.
Chiviriyamodamani Astamanyana Kal milenge Tat Morgan Bis Morgan Nitai Haula Ikiratoyas Atemaya
Atemaya.
Aduma
Aduma. Peribatola. Matashita. Radhe Radhe Shyam. Hey Mom. Hey Labang. Dandavat Pranam, all beautiful Vaishnavas. See you tomorrow.
Radhe
Radhe Radhe.